Hi, ladies. Welcome to your next interview. Kristen and I met, it's been several years, but we've lost track and then the algorithm brought us back. One of the things that we talked about most recently, and I was so excited to bring Kristen to you guys, is during our 90-day session, probably about a month or so ago, we decided we were going to share human design with you. Now, full transparency, if you were there, you would know Carrie and I really know like that much about human design. And there was one of our participants who was obsessed with it. And we instantly thought we need to get an expert in here to share with you guys what human design is and how you can use it to improve your life. And we are all about creating things, understanding ourselves so that we can better take care of us and we can put us in the mix rather than here's my task on my to-do list. It's health all around. So I
Mhm.
am going to let Kristen introduce herself because she's fabulous at that. And we introduce ourselves so much better than anybody else. And I'm so grateful that you're here. Thank you so much for joining me.
Oh my gosh, Bonnie, I am so excited to be here. I think, when we were talking before, this is definitely serendipity that everything has just fallen into place right now. Because when we first connected, I wasn't doing human design, and it's something that I have much more recently introduced into what I do. So, I think it's funny you say I'm going to be great at introducing myself. I feel like I flub this part up all the time, but here we go. So I'm Kristen Franey. I am an anti-business coach and human design coach let's for rebellious women, for women who are a little bit outside the box. Um, and I recently came to human design, well, within the past year. I learned about it a couple of years ago, but I didn't really know that much about it. I'd sort of, gotten an app and I looked at my design. I was like, oh, that's pretty accurate. It's a little bit more accurate than my horoscope, but I didn't really pay much attention to it. And then over the past couple of years, I've dug much more deeply into my horoscope. I've done some business designing and planning around my astrology. And this past year, I had a download, I had an insight to go really deep into something that was going to really be exciting for me to explore, that was a little less business focused and a little less mindset and sciency, which is where a lot of my um, learning had been focused before, and to just go all in with something very spiritual and woo. And I woke up one day and said, oh, it's human design. And since then, I've been studying it a lot. I dive really deeply. I've done readings with dozens of women in the last 8, 9 months or so. And what it's really helped me to do is give language to all of the work that I've been doing for the last 6 years in my coaching practice. So, I very much believe that we are whole humans, and along our journey, we pick up a whole lot of conditioning and limiting beliefs and expectations that society, culture, families, ourselves, we put onto ourselves and we carry around with us, but they're not necessarily our true nature and our inherent identity. And human design gives us language to understand and remove all of that conditioning and say, this is how I am best designed to thrive. Yes, society tells me I should be this way, or I grew up learning this as the best way to be, but it feels like there's a lot of friction when I try to do that. And human design helps us remove all of that friction without trying to box us into a new way of being. It's more like it opens up an easier way of being instead of trying to tell us, no, you have to do things a certain way.
Yeah, I mean, part of the reason we brought it up is we like to do activities where you're actually learning a little bit more about yourself from a different perspective, numerology, human design. We've even brought astrology in and a lot of different um, life coaching practices and, exercises. And
Mhm.
it's funny you say rebellious because I mean, basically, that's what we're made up of is all these women who tried everything and now we're just like, okay, you know what? Forget it. We're bucking all the trends because we just need to know us. And
Yeah,
that's what I think human
exactly.
design is for. Is that's how it's helped me. Because I will walk around and tell you all that I'm this person and that person, this person, and in reality, I'm either masking the truth or I'm leaving out a lot.
Yeah, and sometimes we don't know that we're masking the truth, right? We don't realize it. And so human design, from a very high level understanding of it, it brings together modern neuroscience. So it takes into account all of the conditioning that we've picked up and what society's expectations are and the collective. And weaves that in with astrology, the I Ching, Kabbalah, and the Tree of Life, and the chakra centers. And so it's a very holistic, whole person way of looking at how we're each best designed to operate, thrive, how we generate our energy, um, what we get lit up by, how we best make decisions, which is what so many of the women that I've done readings with or that I've had as my clients and we've used this, that's been kind of the biggest eye-opening piece for them. So, as an example, a lot of times we're told, like when we have a really big decision to make, weigh it out, weigh out the pros and cons, list out what's going to work and what's not going to work, be really logical about it. And as women, one, we know that often we're not logical, but you might be a woman and be logical. You might be an emotional processor. You might be somebody that focuses more on probability. You might focus more on possibility. So like I tend to have possibility as one of my senses, whereas some other folks might have probability, and there's a slight nuance to that. So I'm looking at things, I'm like, what are all the possibilities? What's going to happen? Oh my gosh, this is just as possible as that. Let's go. And somebody else might be like, it's possible, but it's not quite as probable. So based on the probability, I'm going to do this. Whereas if we all try to approach that decision making the same way, it's going to feel really angsty and fractious and hard and just against the grain. And you know what? Life is hard enough. Life is big enough. There's enough that we've got to navigate, that if we can figure out how to not have to navigate ourselves and just find that inner authority and feel really steadfast in ourselves, it makes all of the other nuanced things that are coming up so much more simple, really.
Yeah, we were really trying to explain each one of those elements and how those differences are and how because when we did the human design, we got the report and we didn't get really an explanation of each of
Mm.
those lines. Not until we actually dived into the app. And then, that was when it really became clear. Um, and like for me, I am, is it manifesting generator? Is what I am.
Mm.
I'm a producer, like, and I see possibilities in everything. I dream big and I overwhelm myself, which
Yeah. Yes, which manifesting generators are very likely to do. So, in human design, we start with the five design types, and there's five. You've got manifestors, which are not, there's not a whole lot of manifestors in the world. You've got generators. I'm a generator. So, manifestors tend to like manifest the ideas, the big ideas. Generators create all of the energy. And manifesting generators are a combination of the two. We've also got projectors. Projectors direct all of the energy. So they direct the ideas that the manifestors come up with. Um, and what was the one that I've left out? It's like the seven dwarfs. There's always a last one. Reflectors. Reflectors reflect the energy of the collective back. So they're not necessarily creating energy, they're just reflecting back what's coming up in the collective. They're a very tiny part of the collective, like 1% of the population is a reflector. So manifesting generators tend to get a whole lot of ideas, and you might be like lit up. You're like, oh, I want to do this and I want to do this. And oh, if we could create that, and I want to create this. And then you've also got the generator part of you that is getting lit up by some of those ideas. So in a day, you might have 20 ideas, and then your energy like really picks up on one that's going to be so exciting. You're like, oh my God, I'm so lit up by this. I just want to go off and I want to run in this direction. I'm going to do it. And then you'll have another idea pop up. and that other idea comes in, and then you're like, oh, well, now I've got energy for that, and I'm more lit up by this new thing than I am by the one that I started. And so manifesting generators can start to feel like, because especially since society and culture tells us focus on one thing, do that one thing, see it through to completion, and then start the next thing. But they just don't work that way. And so what works better for them is responding to what's coming up in the moment, having the big picture plan, right? But understanding that they're going to have a whole lot of different ideas and they might need to park it and say, okay, that's as far as I can take this right now. And I'm going to come back and I'm going to look at it later on. Um, and appreciating when they have energy to dedicate to that thing and not just pushing through and doing it. So generators also respond very similarly to that. A lot of the population is generators. So this is probably resonating with a lot of the folks that are listening to this. Um, so generators don't necessarily get the ideas, but we respond to ideas. So I think about like when I write my content, it's rare that I will sit down on a Monday to write my content and be like, oh, here's 5 ideas that I want to write about. But I will very easily be able to pull from ideas of things that inspired me in the week because I've responded to things that have been put on my path. I'm like, oh, I want to talk about that. And I heard this idea. I want to talk about that. And I saw somebody talk about this and I want to expand on that. So I'm responding to things that exist and then having the energy to dive into it then. And I might just have to say, you know what? But I don't have the energy for this one, or I don't really want to explore this one today. Like I might have a list of 10 different things, but I only have the energy for 3 or 4 of them that day. Like only 3 or 4 of them are lighting me up. Doesn't mean there's anything wrong with the other ones, but in my energy, they're not the ones that I'm lit up by. And so it's not going to do me any good to pick one of those ones that I'm not lit up by and try to write about it because it's going to feel big and heavy and gross and I'm not going to be happy and I'll probably feel really frustrated at the end. And then the other one that we have a lot of folks in the collective is projectors. And projectors direct the energy. So the manifestors or the manifesting generators have the ideas, and then they're really good at leading the outcome, at saying, okay, so this is the idea. Here's how we're going to get to the end result. And they're great at kind of keeping the generators on track and bringing generators along. But they like to be invited into things based on their knowledge and their expertise. So they like to be seen as the experts and then invited to work. So they probably won't instigate and initiate their leadership, but they're natural leaders. So lots of really varied ways of responding to the same stimulus, right? Or the same thing. And then how do we best use our energy in order to get done the things that we want to get done?
Yeah, that would be my question because one of the things that popped up when we were talking about this was how do I use this information to help me? Like that was the number one question is you're bringing this to us, but how do we use it? Where do we apply it in life and how do we apply it? So maybe
Yeah.
you can explain better than we did.
Well, I'll try. Um, so an analogy that I use with my clients a lot, and a lot of the work that I do with my clients, a lot of them own businesses or they have big life decisions that they need to make. And so it's a lot around decision making or content creation, and invitations is actually the biggest one that comes up where people feel really gross because they feel they've been sold to in really gross ways. And so they don't want to sell in gross ways. And those gross ways are probably just a very bro marketing kind of way. They don't necessarily take into account different invitation styles. So a manifester is probably going to make just a direct invitation. Here's my thing. I want you to join, sign up. Here's how you click the link. But that doesn't work for everyone. So I'm going to use the analogy of like making decisions about what you want to eat because we all like to eat. so so a manifester is probably going to be like, oh my gosh, I want to have um Mexican Japanese fusion. I might have used this analogy with you last week. And I actually had Mexican Japanese fusion in Bali. It was the the best burrito truck I've ever been to. So I'm not totally making this up. I'm responding to something that already existed.
I love
But
that.
somebody had this idea, and he wanted to make it was Japanese burritos. So a manifester is likely to say, "Oh my God, I want Japanese burritos." Amazing, right? Um, a manifesting generator is probably, and then they might invite other people to go along with them. A manifesting generator, if we're going to say, okay, like they're trying to decide what to have for dinner, we would do better to say, do you want to go to this one or this one? And let them suss out which one they're going to prefer. A generator would be like, I'm going to go for the Mexican burritos tonight or the Japanese burritos. And they would say, totally not for me. And then you'd have to come up with a second way of, or a second option for them. Okay, well, if you don't want that, how about spaghetti? Yep, okay, yep, great. Right. So they're going to get that initial response of nope, or yep, uh-huh. Manifesting generators like responding to a couple of different options, which one lights them up. And a projector is going to do much better when they're invited to the thing. Hey, we're all going out for Japanese burritos tonight. Do you want to come along? And they'll be like, oh, yeah, thanks for the invitation. That sounds great. Right? Because they like that invitation.
Yeah.
So when we're trying to make decisions, if we can frame those things in a similar way or frame that decision in a similar way, right? So as the manifestor, just knowing that the idea pops in, trust it. Like that's probably the thing. Go with it. Play with it. See how it goes. And if you know that it feels really good, but you're running into a stumbling block, ask what type of support you can get to get beyond that stumbling block. If you're a manifesting generator, kind of the same thing. Know that you're going to have a whole bunch of different ideas, and you're likely to want to go off into different tangents. And it might just be that you get a project to a certain stage and then you get to invite somebody else along, or you pass it off to somebody else to finish that, or you just park it. Or you come back to it when you've got the energy to deal with it and you don't make yourself feel wrong for that. And you just recognize that your energy is going to wax and wane. For generators, it's, going all in. Like once you know, when you feel that, yes, again, it's learning to trust it instead of letting all of those limiting beliefs come up and tell you not to trust yourself, and just going with your initial reaction, and practicing it, right? Because so often, especially women of a big age like me, we're very practiced at not trusting our intuition. And so trying it out in little moments and realizing that the world doesn't end when you trust yourself, and that's how you'll build greater trust. And if you're a projector, it's letting people that are in your life know that you like to be invited, and putting that, as not as an expectation, but, just being really open and honest and saying, I like to be invited. This is a part of what's going to make me feel really good, and let them step up and invite you into things.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for the explanations. Um, do you have any tips or suggestions for our members with regard to human design?
I think definitely explore it, like look into it and have fun and play around. And know that there is no one right way to do anything. And that the way that you thrive and what feels really good for you is likely to be the best way that you're going to thrive. As women, especially, we're taught so much, and there's so much conditioning that we pick up along the way, about not trusting ourselves and putting everybody else first. And self care can sometimes feel like it's selfish. And it can, even if we intellectually know that, it can be really hard, um, to accept it still, right? Like to integrate it as opposed to acknowledge it. And so know that if you have a sense of something, it's okay to trust that and to play. And sometimes just taking the tiniest little step, um, in accepting that, or in trying something the way that your design says you might thrive, is going to set you up to, start to feel more comfortable in doing it in bigger situations. So we don't change our life overnight. We change our life by an increment of little decisions. So try it out and play around with little tiny things that are coming in so that you feel that you can trust yourself with the bigger things later on.
I love that. That totally lines up with basically everything that we teach. We teach everything in small doses because once you're done with whatever growth process you're in, whether it's 90-day or it's something else, you're all those little tiny steps add up to such a much bigger shift and
Mhm.
a better shift. It doesn't feel like it just transitions.
Exactly. Yeah. It's step by step. Yeah. Lao Tzu said the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step.
Yes.
Mhm. Mhm.
One of my favorite quotes, actually.
Yeah.
Love it.
Same girl, same.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. So for those who've been listening to this who want to follow you or connect with you, where can they find you? Where do you hang out? Because we all hang
Where
out
do I hang
somewhere.
out?
Yeah.
We do all hang out in different places. I hang out on Instagram.
Oh,
I'm super easy to find on Instagram. It's Kristen.Franey. I have a website that is in redesign, but they're always harder to find, I think, than the socials. I'm on the socials. You can drop me a message over there, see everything that I'm all about, what it is that I've got going on. And I'm always happy for people to drop in and say hi.
yeah. And she's great to talk to, you guys. Seriously. This is not the social butterfly me. So we will drop all of her information below, and then once her website is up and running, we'll update, and that'll be down below too. So
Fabulous.
thank you. I appreciate you being here, and I'm so grateful that the algorithm brought us back together.
Serendipity, yes, because
Yeah,
we did connect a few years ago and I've been sort of following you, but like I said, when we first spoke last week, like I hadn't seen you pop up in my stories in such a long time. And so there was definitely some secretive universal work at play there to put us back in
absolutely,
our paths. Yeah, and I'm so
absolutely.
excited.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's been so many shifts in both of our worlds that it's
Yes.
nice to be here again. So
Yes, it is fabulous. All right. Thank you so much,
thank
Bonnie.